Okay, great. Now we are here in this Azure portal. As you can see in front of me, I have this home page. Basically, I have some links here, for example, free online courses, Q&A section, quick starts, and so on. Below that, we also have some services here. So as you can see, we have resource groups, data factories, SQL servers, and so on. Also, if you scroll down, we will be able to see again resources, and we are able to see this recent, and also we have favorite, but in this case we don't have any, so it's empty. We have also different options if you scroll down. There is a lot of options in this Azure platform, but we will be using the most important ones. How can we find them? If we click on this button here, we'll be able to see some favorite, in this case resources. If we scroll down, we will be able to see more of them, for example, Azure Cosmos DB, virtual machines, and so on. And also there is another option. If you click here, we'll be able to type. For example, if we need storage account, when we type this, we'll be able to see, for example, here storage accounts. Let's click on that. And we will be able to start working on storage accounts. As you can see, we also have different options for each of these services, but we will talk about that later. Let's go back to home. First, what we need to do? We need to create a resource group. So let's click on this create a resource. And let's type a resource group. Resource group, if I type that, I'll be able to see resource group. Also, we have another options to type resource groups here. As you can see, we already have that option in these recent services. If I click on this, I'll be able to see resource groups. As you can see, we don't have any, no resources to display, and there is also option to create new resource group. We are going to be clicking on that. Let's click. And now first we will create our resource group. As you can see, first what you need to choose is your subscription. Basically, you will have your free trial account option, and when you choose that, you will be able to provide a resource group name. In this case, let's call it end-to-end project, for example, end-to-end project. And also you can provide a region. Let me provide, for example, Asia. Let's try that. Click next, next, and click on create. Now, as you can see, we successfully created our first resource group. In this resource group, we're going to be placing our services, Azure Data Factory, Databricks, and so on. So if I click on this resource group here, I will be able some different options on this left side here. And also we have this window which will allow us to create resources. But now let's go back to home page. Now, as you can see, now we have our resource group here. So next, let's create our data lake. How can we do that? We will click on this storage account, or if you don't have that here, you can type storage account. Storage account. Let's click on that and create storage account. Now you need to provide first subscription. You can choose your subscription, and then you will need to choose your resource group. That is the group that we created. As you can see, I already have that option recommended, end-to-end project, and if I don't have that, I can also create new resource group, but in this case I will choose this one. Okay, now I need to provide storage account name. This is already taken. Let's something like this. Okay, let's use that. We are going to be using this standard option, and also we are going to keep this as it is and click on next. Okay, perfect. We can scroll down, we can leave this as it is. And now what is important, to check this option. If you check that option, you will be able to use your data lake. So let's click on next. Next. And now we are able to create our data lake storage. Let's click on create and let's wait for process to complete. Okay, great. Now our data lake storage is completed. We can click on this go to resource button. If I click on that, I will be able to see some information about my data lake storage. As you can see, you have different options, for example, upload, opening, explorer, delete, and so on. And also you have some other options on this left side. For example, this one is interesting. Here you can allow some access to some features and so on. We will be working on this later. Also, we have this data storage section. Here we are able to see this containers button. If I click on that, I will be able to see my storage. As you can see, in this storage we don't have any containers here, but how can we create them? We can click on this container button here. But let me, before create, go to Home tab. As you can see, now we have our storage account created here. If I click on this resource group, you will be able to see this belonging data lake storage. Let's go back to Home and let's click on our storage account once again. Okay, perfect. Now as you can see, we again have those information about our storage, but don't worry about that. I understand it's a lot of information, but currently it's not important for you to understand this. For you, it's important to understand this containers option. This is the most important one for now. Let's click on that, and now we will be able to create our containers. So let's create first container here. Let's provide name. I'm gonna provide name raw data. Okay, I will need to do something like this. Let's try with this. Okay, great, raw data. If I click on create, I will be able to create my first container. Basically, you can understand container as a folder in your computer. So basically, if you have, for example, one folder and that folder contains multiple files, that will be same like our container here. We will be storing files in this raw data container. So let's create one more container. I already mentioned that we will have two containers. First will be for raw data and then for transform data. And we will be using Databricks to transform data from raw data container and to import that in transform data. So let's do that now. Let's type transformed. Transform data. Okay, perfect. Let's click on create. Great, now we have both of these containers. Now we will be able to store our data here. Now that we completed that, let's go back to this Home tab here. Now again we are able to see our resources. But let me go back to my presentation. Okay, here is my presentation. Let's make it bigger. Okay, perfect. Now as you can see, we created raw data and transform data containers. This is data lake that we created and this part is complete. Now what we need to do? We need to import those CSV files in that data lake. So now we need to create this resource. This will be also one resource as we created data lake. That way we will be creating Azure Data Factory. Later on, of course, Databricks, SQL database and so on. But now let's create Azure Data Factory. Okay, perfect. Let's go back to our portal and let's type Azure Data Factory. As you can see, I already have that recommended here, but let me just show you. Azure Data Factory. Okay, let's try to delete this Azure Data Factories. Okay, great. As you can see, we don't have any resources here, so we will need to create our data factory. Let's click on this. And now we will need to provide some information. First is again our subscription. You already saw that you need to provide your free trial account. And also, next one is resource group. I'm gonna provide my resource group that I already created. Let's choose that one. Okay, perfect. Now we need to provide name for this data factory. Let's call it end-to-end. End-to-end. Okay, perfect. End-to-end data factory. For this one, let me choose something else. Let's try something like this. This one is not important, it's basically a region where you would like to, let's say, place your resources. I'm gonna leave this option also as it is. Review and create. Let's click on this create button. Now this data factory resource is completed. As you can see, we have these options go to resource. Let's click on that. If I click on that, I will be able to see this data factory window, and now I have this Azure data factory and I can start working in this data factory now. But before that, let me go to this home tab just to see what we have now here. As you can see, we have this end-to-end data factory resource, and if I click on this resource group, I will be able to see also my Azure data factory. So let's go back to home.